Cohen, and if you've ever had the thought as you were working with a particular pattern or changing a belief and you thought, God, I thought I was done with that, this video is for you. I just got an email from a woman who had a very upsetting experience with feeling that she had been betrayed, that she had gotten involved with some dishonest people who had robbed her, and she was just feeling devastated by that. And she said to me that this was a pattern that she has experienced many times. And her frustration was that she's worked with it through a variety of different avenues and felt, God, I thought I was beyond this. I thought I was done with that. And I've heard people say that so many times, and I've looked at that myself because it's very common when you have invested time and energy into dismantling some of those internal programs that run your life that don't feel great and ones that you know that you want to shift. It can feel as if with all that you've done, why is that program still running? And so I have looked at that both as a coach and a psychotherapist and also a traveler, that the way that I tend to think about some of these patterns are like internal structures. And when you think of building a house, you have a foundation and then you start adding rooms and walls and windows, and before you know it, you have the framework for a house, and then you start moving in and you begin to live there. So when you think about how beliefs get formed, how patterns get formed over time, they're reinforced, layers and layers of experiences and beliefs, one on top of another. And so they create, you can think of it as an internal structure or a lot of substance piling one on top of another. Now, we'd love to think that when we focus on releasing a pattern and healing something within ourselves, that we can just go in and dig all of it out at once. But the reality is that we don't. And there's a beauty to the fact that we don't do it that way. You know, when you think of an artichoke, you don't get to the heart of the artichoke immediately. You have to peel back before you get to that juiciness. And the artichoke has all of these leaves that protect the heart. And that's one of the things that we do in surviving and thriving in our lives, is we set up all these different armors and all these different ways of protecting ourselves so that we can move through experiences. Oftentimes when we're very young, we don't have the maturity or the resources to be able to resolve them in a healthy way. This is what we learn how to do later on when we grow up. So here she was in this frustration, and so I'm going to be having a session with her in about 30 minutes, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more in depth. And what I hope that you take away from this conversation today is to be gentle with yourself, because it takes time and it takes love and it takes strengthening that internal foundation inside of yourself to get to the heart of things. That there's a reason why we move through layers so that we can integrate those shifts. And over time, since the spiritual path is not a straight line, it's a spiral, we go deeper and deeper and deeper within ourselves to free ourselves at the deepest level. We begin to experience ourselves in deeper truth. And there's a grace and there's a beauty about that. So when I see some of my patterns coming up that seem to have the same theme, I look at it in gratitude. Here's the next piece. I've called forth, I'm strong enough now to deal with this piece, to embrace it, to feel it, to love it, and then to let it go. And if there's another piece that comes up, great. I can judge it. I can get frustrated with myself. I can beat myself up. I can feel as if I failed. I can do all of these things to myself just as you can. Or you can celebrate the next piece that comes up, because whatever pattern you may still be running, you are not running it at the same place, in the same way, at the same level as before you started working with it. So please celebrate that. Feel good about that. And so when the next awareness comes up of something that maybe you've been working with, that you then say to yourself, I thought I was done with this. Instead, welcome it. Love it. Know that you've summoned it. It's come up at a time because it is a pathway to something that is waiting for you around the corner. And there's a relationship between that pattern that's essential for you to recognize so that you can move to the next space. So that's a good thing rather than a negative thing, or something that you can beat yourself up for, or feel bad about, or feel a failure about, or just wonder, when is this going to end? This spiritual journey does not ever end. It's ongoing, and we can make it joyful or we can make it miserable. We have that choice. So I hope that this has been helpful for you. I'd love to hear any comments that you have, and feel free to connect with me at LorraineCohen.com. So have a wonderful day, living through your experiences and knowing that you are always working for yourself. Have a terrific day.